Devil's Night is a bigger deal than Halloween on campus. In case you don't know, Devil's Night is the night before Halloween, October 30th. It's the day kids play pre-Halloween pranks. For example, covering their neighbors' yards in toilet paper or turning everything upside down in their teacher's classroom. At our college, Devil's Night marks the wildest Kappa Sig party of the year. Tickets are incredibly sought after and not available to buy. You have to be invited. As a freshman from a poor background, I never expected to be on the guest list. Damon Van Ark runs the Kappa Sig fraternity. Think of the stereotypical spoiled rich kid, and that's him. His family owned the Kappa Sig mansion, and all the frat members come from families almost as wealthy and influential, but not quite. I think that last part is important to the Van Arks. I recognize Damon and some of the other frat members like Zach Drake and Tom York when I see them around campus, but I don't know them personally and they don't know me. We've never exchanged a single word. So to say I'm surprised when an invite addressed to me slides under the door is an understatement. "This means I'm your +1, my roommate Sutton squeals. I nod, still trying to make sense of it. I briefly wonder if it's a joke, but this seems unlikely. I'm not popular by any means. But I'm no longer the class freak I was in high school. I go about my business largely unnoticed. It doesn't make sense that I'd be on Kappa Sig's radar for any reason at all. It's becoming obvious that I have to go to the party because of Sutton's excitement. She isn't invited in her own right. Roommates get an automatic +1, but I'm not sure she can go if I don't. And then there's the situation with my scholarship. I got into the university on a sporting scholarship as a long-distance runner. But last month, a dog knocked me off my bike and my injuries have left me unable to train at a high enough level for the foreseeable future. I spent my entire childhood dreaming of leaving my narcissistic mother, and my life here is everything I hoped it would be. I love Sutton and my new psychology major, but without my scholarship, I can't afford to stay. Apparently there's a game at the party and the winner gets $100,000. I know it sounds far-fetched, but Damon giving me $100,000 is like me giving you a cent. So it's possible the rumors are true. The game is supposedly dangerous. People say a girl nearly drowned last year. I'm a strong swimmer, and if it means I don't have to leave, then surely it's worth the risk. Even if I drown, at least I won't be returning to my mother. Sutton Skypes our friend Gordo with the news. He's from a dime store background like me, but his creepy roommate's mom is a close friend of frat boy Zach's aunt or something, so he's on the list. Gordo thinks the whole thing is ridiculous, but wants to go, for the lulz. When Devil's Night rolls around, we spend most of the afternoon getting ready. Sutton lends me one of her designer dresses so I don't have to feel self-conscious in my target number. I'm not usually ashamed of my background. I might not get on with my mother, but there's nothing wrong with our lifestyle. My father was an honest and hardworking man before he died falling from scaffolding. But it's difficult not to feel inferior knowing everyone else going to the party has a prestigious last name and automatic wealth. The college admissions are biased towards the privileged, so I sometimes feel like an alien on a strange planet around campus. But there's no major shortage of people like me. There will be at this damn party. I wouldn't be going if not for Sutton and the scholarship debacle. We totter to Gordo's dorm in our impractical heels. Why do people wear these? I can already feel my injured leg aching in protest. I'm relieved when we get there, but we still have to walk to the frat house, and that's further than the distance between our dorms. "Aren't you ready, Mike?" I asked Gordo's roommate, noticing his food-stained sweats. "It's Michael, and I'm not going. Anyone who would risk their life for money deserves to lose it, in my opinion." "You don't have to play the game to go to the party," Sutton points out, although she doesn't sound keen for Michael to join us. I hate to be judgmental, but he is weird. Gordo once woke up in the night to find Michael standing over his bed, staring down at him. "I'm busy," he snaps. "Yeah, that looks pressing," I mutter. He's seemingly just staring at an ant farm. "Shall we go then?" Gordo says. He scrubs up well in a suit, but as much as I hate to admit it, Damon is more my type. Gordo is like a brother. We decide to get an Uber. It pulls up in front of a water fountain bigger than my dorm room. I've seen the Kappa Sig mansion on Instagram, but the scale of it in real life shocks me. It looks like a hotel for the rich and famous. About this game, Gordo says as we walk up the driveway. I get you need the money in that, but don't do anything too crazy. A girl nearly drowned last year. Is that definite, though, or just a rumor? I was hoping you guys would enter to boost my chances. We'll split the money, of course. I'm in, Sutton chirps. She takes my hand as we walk up the steps and give our names to the beefy security men. We have to show photo ID, and I brought the invite for good measure. It seems Gordo can get in without Michael, so Sutton could have gone without me. The ballroom is packed with frat boys in tuxedos and girls so glamorous they don't seem real. I can't help feeling embarrassed by my own hair and makeup in their presence. I thought I looked pretty before we got here, but now I'm full of self-doubt. Hey, you look great, Gordo says, reading my mind. He's always doing that. Sutton grabs us drinks, and after a few glasses, I'm able to dance and have a good time like a normal person. I'm even disappointed when the music stops and the band gets off stage. Damon takes the lead singer's place at the microphone. There's something about dark hair with blue eyes, Sutton mutters. You don't have to tell me, I replied. Hey, is that Michael? I add, spotting someone that looks like him from across the room. I'm fairly sure it's him, but he's swapped the stained sweats for a tux, and he said he wasn't coming. Welcome to Devil's Night, Damon booms. The crowd applauds like he's just won an Oscar. Gordo rolls his eyes. I know what you're all waiting for, Damon continues. So let me tell you about this year's game. The crowd erupts again. When they calm down, he explains the rules. Anyone brave or stupid enough to take part is to stand behind me on stage. Not yet, Zach. I will hand out brownies made fresh this afternoon by our lovely chef. Each player takes one piece per turn. Most of them are perfectly good brownies, but one is poisoned. The poor soul that eats the deadly piece will die instantly. Of course, you don't have to eat anything. Anyone can leave the stage at any time, but you'll be out of the game. The last man standing wins $250,000. The crowd crescendos as people discuss the increased prize money and the possibility of dying. He can't really poison someone, he'd go to prison, Sutton says, almost shouting to be heard. He's a rich white male with daddy's lawyers and moronic friends to back up whatever he says. He'd get away with it, and he knows it, Gordo rants. That said, I don't think there is any poison. It's a game of nerve. All players have 30 seconds to get on stage, Damon yells. People start shoving to get through the crowd. Gordo tries to hold me back, but I pull my arm from his grasp. I stand between Zach and Sutton on stage. The security men remove wannabe players that didn't make it on time but refuse to return to the audience. At a guess, there's between 40 and 50 players on stage. I'm surprised to see Michael among us. It's definitely him, but he's too far down the line for me to question him about his change of heart. If you don't eat a piece of brownie within 30 seconds of me offering you the plate, you're out, Damon says, cutting across all conversation. The room falls silent. A plate full of stacked bite-sized brownie squares is offered to the first player, a frat boy whose name I don't know. He takes a square, but puts it back and leaves the stage. The crowd laughs and boos. The next three players also don't eat. These people know Damon, and they obviously think there is poison, Sutton whispers. She sounds frightened. The next player eats. The crowd cheers. The game continues with people eating or refusing, and before I know it, Damon is offering the plate to Zach. He eats a square with no hesitation. The crowd goes wild. Miss Carrie White, Damon says with a wink, holding the plate out to me. I take a square. My eyes meet Gordo's and he shakes his head, but I eat the brownie anyway. It tastes normal, if not slightly too rich. Sutton almost runs out of time, but swallows at the last second. With the number of brownies on the plate diminishing, more people decide not to eat. Michael chickens out. 20 people go through to round 2. There are 5 of us in round 3, including me and Zach, but not Sutton. There aren't many brownies left on the plate. This makes me think Gordo was right about there being no poison, but it also makes sense for the poisoned one to be at the bottom to avoid the game ending too soon. 2 players quit in round 3, leaving 3 people and 3 brownies. Round 4 commences and the first guy quits. If Zach doesn't go, do I still have to eat? I ask. Nope, you'll be the last one standing, Damon answers. What? That's not fair. Why is she after me in the order? Zach whines. People stood where they stood. But we should have been told or ordered in a fair way. I tell him people nearer the front had the advantage of probability. He looks at me blankly. Because there are more brownies at the beginning, so the chances of getting the poisoned one are slimmer, I explain. That's your 30 seconds up, Damon says nonchalantly. Zach's face turns red and he looks like he's going to explode. I didn't realize my go had started, he rages. I was holding out the damn plate and you were next. What did you want me to do? Damon snaps. Tell me it was my go. Nobody else was told it was their turn every time. It's common sense. Zach looks close to boiling over, so a couple of security guys drag him off stage as he struggles and curses. The crowd suddenly cheers louder than they have all night, which is saying something, and it hits home that I've won. I won. I don't have to leave college. Sutton runs on stage to hug me, and even Gordo is smiling. A group of frat boys lift me onto their shoulders. They put me down in front of Damon, who hands me a check for $250,000. I can hardly believe it, but the check looks genuine. I go home to my dorm in high spirits, but there's a niggling worry that the check won't clear. I don't feel great about taking money, but what Damon won't miss will change my life. I won that game fair and brownie square. I go to bed with my makeup on, delirious and exhausted. I wake in the early morning to Sutton vomiting. My shackles are up because she wasn't drunk when we got home last night. I turn on my bedside lamp. She's covered in sweat and looks feverish. She staggers to the bathroom before I can ask if she's all right, though that would have been a stupid question. I notice blood in her vomit. Sutton? I call at the bathroom door. She doesn't reply. Thankfully, the door isn't locked. I open it to find her passed out. I put her in the recovery position so she doesn't choke if she throws up again, then call 911. The paramedics aren't sure what's wrong. They seem anxious to get her to the hospital. I go with them, wondering how to call her parents. Her phone is password protected and I don't have their number. I'm surprised to find Damon in the hospital waiting room. Hi, I mumble. Thank God you're okay. I was gonna check on you as soon as someone bothers to tell me how Tom's doing. Why wouldn't I be okay? I ask in confusion. Zach's dead and some of the others that played the game are sick. I don't understand. One piece contained laxatives, but nothing serious. So, there was no poison? No, or there wasn't supposed to be. Who invited me to the party? I don't know why I ask this. It doesn't seem important now. I should have said I'm sorry about Zach. I did, he replies. Why? Do you need poor people desperate for the money to play your stupid game? He looks hurt. No, I just wanted you to come. I don't know your background. I'm not sure the last part is true, but I changed the subject. Did a girl almost drown last year? The challenge was to hold your breath with your head held under and a barrel of water. It was Zach's idea. There was a hand signal if you wanted to be let up. People were supposed to make the signal if they were struggling. That's why we went for something tamer this year. Time passes in a blur. Sutton and Tom survive. The college are able to contact Sutton's parents. They thank me for calling the ambulance. I feel awful that they seem to think I saved her life, when in reality it's my fault she was at that party and I encouraged her to play the game. Myself and everyone else that ate the brownies but aren't unwell are brought in for tests and observation. I experienced mild poisoning 5 days after the party, but with early treatment, it's nothing compared to what Sutton and Tom went through. It's discovered the brownies were laced with ricin. The current death toll is 6. The doctors don't think it was mixed through the batch evenly, suggesting whoever spiked the mixture was in a hurry. Damon and the entire Kappa Sig household are questioned extensively, including the staff, but the detectives don't find the person responsible. I've given up on the culprit being punished when Gordo calls. It was Michael. He poisoned the brownies, he tells me. I'm too stunned to speak. I found the ricin. He tried to flush it down the toilet, but it didn't go, and the moron didn't notice or wait to check. I saw it when I went to brush my teeth. I can't believe it, I say. I know he was weird, but I never expected him to do anything like this. Remember what he said before the party? Gordo asks. Anyone who risks their life for money deserves to lose it. The mood on campus is demure, but people seem happier in the lead up to Christmas. There's a vigil for those that died on the last day before we break for the holidays. Sutton's parents travel to attend. They invite me to spend Christmas with them when they find out about my plans to stay on campus alone. I agree after they assure me repeatedly it's no bother. And their kindness gives me hope that next year will bring better things. My powers are coming back. They've been dormant for 6 months after an incident in my hometown. It's typical, isn't it? As soon as I accept they're gone forever and actually start to enjoy life as an ordinary person, they return. I'm staying with my college roommate Sutton and her family for winter break because going back to my mother wasn't an option. Mother won't be pleased my abilities are back, not that I plan on telling her. She had to move away after the incident. Carrie isn't even my real name. I had to change it to start a new life. I first noticed my powers returning when I was struggling to lift my suitcase out of the car. After getting nowhere because my case was wedged between Sutton's mammoth bag and the side of the trunk, it suddenly became weightless and moved easily toward me. I felt the familiar force of energy leaving my body, so I knew I had shifted the case with my mind without even meaning to do this. Sutton's granddad Timothy came out to greet us. He told me his staff would bring in the suitcases. I said I didn't mind, but he insisted like it was hugely important. It happened again at Christmas dinner. I was thinking that I'd like more gravy, and the jug floated across the table to land within reach. Luckily, Sutton's sister Katie was showing off her new ankle tattoo, so nobody noticed. Katie's fiancé Trent wasn't looking at the tattoo, but he was preoccupied on his phone. I was so surprised I had used my powers again without intending to do so that Sutton's little cousin Sawyer took what was left of the gravy before I could get there. She's the only one that might have seen the jug floating, but she didn't act as if something unusual happened. And she's 10, so at least nobody will believe her if she says anything. But it's concerning that I don't seem to have the control over my powers I had previously built up. I didn't even feel the energy leave my body when I moved the jug, so it all seems dangerously unpredictable. Today is after New Year. We're in the lull before college starts again. Sutton is choosing a dress for me to borrow to wear to the charity ball her family attends every year. She's showing me a gold number when her mom Julia walks in. "Shouldn't you have started curling your hair?" Sutton asks. To me, she adds, "Mom does it the old-fashioned way with rollers." Julia replies, "Sawyer isn't feeling well, so I volunteered to stay behind. We've already sent the staff home. I'm sure Mrs. Abbott wouldn't mind coming back for the evening, but I'd hate to disrupt her plans." "I don't mind staying," I offered. "I can't ask that of you, dear," Julia says. Sutton argues, "But you've been looking forward to the ball for months, Mom. We'll stay. I haven't been feeling 100% since getting out of the hospital anyway, and Carrie doesn't want to go since she found out Damon isn't going." I ask, who even goes skiing with friends over Christmas instead of being at home with their family anyway? "Damon's father isn't a particularly nice man," Julia tells me. "So it's settled, we're staying," Sutton insists. Side note, if you want to know how Sutton ended up in the hospital, or if you're wondering who Damon is, head to the description after this video. This is the second installment of my story. The first is linked in the description. Anyway, we're settled on the sofa, ready to watch a film when the others tell us they're leaving. Timothy says, "Don't go into the grounds because you'll trip the alarm when you come back inside. The authorities are automatically notified if the alarm isn't turned off within 60 seconds. We don't want to waste their time." "Can't I just have the code?" Sutton asks. "You know the rules, Snowflake. Only family members that need access at least 100 days of the year get the code." "Snowflake?" I snort after they've gone. "He doesn't know what it means," Sutton laughs. Timothy walks back in, and I panic he overheard me, but he doesn't seem annoyed. He says, "Snowflake, I just remembered. I meant to give you this in the limo, but you can have it now instead." He passes Sutton a black velvet box, which she opens to reveal a beautiful gold necklace with a ruby pendant. "Grandma's necklace?" she whispers, her eyes fill with tears. "She would have wanted you to have it. You were always her favorite." "Hey!" Sawyer says in outrage. "It's true, though," she then admits. Sutton fastens the chain around her neck and then leaps up to give her granddad a hug. I have to hold back tears remembering my dad. He passed away when I was young. I didn't have any grandparents to love me after he was gone. And the less said about my mother, the better. "Dad," Julia calls from the hall. "Be careful going down the steps to the limo. Hold on to the railing, it's very icy." Timothy leaves and I press play on the film. We get an early night when it's over. The others aren't feeling great, and despite only using my powers to practice moving small objects, the effort has exhausted me. I'm asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow. I wake up to find Sawyer shaking me frantically. My heart starts beating double time. Something is wrong.
"There's someone in the house,"
she whispers. Men's voices travel up the stairs, voices I don't recognize as belonging to anyone in the family. A glance at the clock tells me it's just after midnight. They're not due back from the ball for at least another hour.
"Where's my phone?"
Sutton whispers, desperately looking amongst the duvet. I kick myself for leaving mine charging downstairs.
"Get in the closet,"
Sutton whisper yells, giving up on her phone. "What about the alarm your granddad mentioned? Will the police be on their way?"
"We'd be able to hear it. They must have disarmed it somehow."
"Shh!" Sawyer hisses as the bedroom door creaks open. We watch through the slats as two men walk in. Sawyer clasps her hands over her mouth, tears rolling down her face. Sutton holds each of our hands and grips tightly. I breathe as quietly as possible, my heart pounding in my ears. I wonder if the men are here for us. Did Julia mention to someone at the ball that we stayed behind without realizing they had sinister intentions?
"Behind that horse painting,"
a bearded man says in a husky drawl. The other man removes the painting to reveal a safe.
"What's the code?" 6823. "Not working."
Beard sighs.
"Try again. I'll check what he said. I'm sure that was it."
He tugs a phone from his pocket. He curses after looking at the screen.
"What? 3 girls are still here."
We look at each other in horror. Sutton's grip on my hand becomes vice-like. I spot her phone under the bed. At least we'll be able to call for help as soon as they leave the room. Then, I remember my powers. I pull the phone towards me with my mind. It'll be tight through the slats, but I think it'll fit.
"What do you mean?"
Non-Beard asks.
"I don't know. Trent said someone was ill. Why didn't he call and check we saw the message?"
"Don't shout, they'll hear you. Why was Trent even part of this?"
"For his looks, obviously. Katie was never going to go out with you, was she?"
The phone hits the edge of the lower slat as I try to guide it through. It clatters to the floor. The men look towards the closet in shock. Any doubt about where we are is lost when Sawyer sneezes.
"Get out now,"
Beard barks.
"Do as I say and you won't be harmed."
Despite his words, he pulls a knife from somewhere within his coat. I try to take it from him, but my powers don't respond. We follow Sutton out of the closet.
"Get 3 chairs and something to tie him up with,"
Beard instructs his partner. Then he glares at us.
"If you cooperate, you won't be hurt. We'll leave after opening the safes."
"But they've seen our faces," No Beard argues.
"So what? We disabled the cameras and we look like half the white males in the country."
"We could have some fun with them, though," No Beard suggests as he ties my wrists around the back of the chair. The restraints bite into my skin. Not the little one, obviously, but the other two.
"Not happening. Let's open the safes and get out of here."
Well, what do we have here? No Beard says, lifting Sutton's necklace. "This looks pricey." "No, please, I'll give you my trust fund if you leave the necklace," Sutton begs. "Sweetheart, I'll take the trust fund and the necklace."
"We don't have time to fluff around with trust funds we can't take now,"
Beard snaps.
"Just get the necklace."
The sight of my friend in distress activates my powers. When No Beard reaches for the necklace, I throw his forearm back on itself so hard it snaps like a twig. Bone protrudes through the skin. He screams as I feel the force leave me.
"What did you do?"
Beard yells, brandishing the knife at Sutton. I try again to tear it from his grip, but nothing happens. Sawyer quips,
"It went something like this."
I watch as Beard's arm snaps back in much the same way, but I didn't do it. Not even by accident, because I would have felt the energy leave my body. Sawyer has the same gift. The gravy incident suddenly makes sense. I didn't move the jug across the table. She did. "They're going to kill us," No Beard whimpers.
"Don't be so dramatic,"
Sawyer responds, almost shouting to be heard over their cries of agony.
"You can go if you leave everything you've stolen behind. I didn't use my powers for bad."
"What do you call this, then?" No Beard waves his arm. His face creases with instant regret and a new wave of pain.
"Proportionate force necessary,"
Sawyer replies. The men leave, cradling their broken arms. Sawyer uses the knife beard drop to cut our bonds, with her mind at first. Her nose starts bleeding. That used to happen to me when I overdid my powers at her age. She doesn't seem concerned, so she must be used to it. Sutton didn't appear to realize that I have Sawyer's gift as well. Sawyer and I exchange a glance and silently agree to keep it that way. Sutton seems freaked out enough by just one of us being superhuman. Julia and the family are horrified by the break-in when they eventually get home. Sutton shoots Trent daggers and he backs away before she can tell her family about his role in tonight's events. Nobody notices when I follow him out of the house. Your friends didn't warn you then? I ask. They sent a message, but I've only just seen it. I laugh, wondering if they deliberately put so little effort into contacting him or if they're just as idiotic. What do you want? He snaps at me. You can't prove anything. I ask, did they tell you what Sawyer did? Doesn't make sense. They're deluded. What if they're not? Look, I don't have time for this. I'm out of here. No, you're not. I feel the force leave me as I whip his feet out from under him. He goes down easily on the icy steps. I maneuver his body into the perfect position to hit his head as my hatred intensifies. No woman deserves to be taken advantage of the way he used Katie. I can't change how he treated her, but I can stop him from abusing anyone else. His skull cracks with a satisfying crunch. I go back inside. You see, Sawyer doesn't use her powers for bad, but I do. Trent is pronounced dead at the scene the next morning after a member of staff finds the body upon arrival. The police tell us they'll know more after the postmortem, but he almost certainly suffered a head trauma after falling on the ice. His death isn't currently being treated as suspicious, and I'm confident it'll stay that way. Katie seems more upset by Trent's betrayal than his demise. Last night she found hidden cameras filming the safes, and according to Julia, Timothy trusted Trent with the alarm deactivation code for the house because he stayed there a lot for business. Business that was probably fictional. Nobody but Katie lets Trent's actions or passing ruin the rest of winter break, and we enjoy the time we have left together. Sawyer helps me with my powers, and I feel much more in control afterwards. She says Timothy knows about her powers and taught her about proportionate force necessary. I thought it was a strange phrase for a 10-year-old to know.
How many of us do you think there are?
She asks. Hopefully not many, I reply.
Why?
Because one of our kind can destroy a whole town. Imagine what an army could do. And we don't all have your good intentions.
The difficulty with having telekinetic powers is remembering not to use them without thinking. You'll understand if you doodle in class or meetings, or if you twiddle with anything, a pencil, for example. I just caught myself spinning my pen absent-mindedly, except I don't use my hands, I use my mind. I urgently drop the pen because it would appear to be rotating in mid-air by itself if anybody noticed. Luckily, I'm sitting in the back now, so the person most likely to have seen is the professor, and she's facing the other way, writing on the board. I glance around the room to see if anyone is staring at me, and they're not, until my eyes reach Damon Van Ark. He's looking right at me. I quickly break eye contact, wondering if he saw the pen. I'm probably over-worrying. He's not sat at the best angle to have noticed, but it's possible he did. I need to be more cautious. Last week, I pushed the clock's minute hand forward 5 minutes during a particularly boring lecture. That professor doesn't wear a watch and is always glancing at the clock, probably as desperate to reach the end as everyone else. I thought no one would see, but a few students laughed or gasped. I'm sure nobody's mind jumped to telekinetic classmate, but people might start piecing it together if I'm not careful. It's hard not to be paranoid in my situation. I changed my identity after an incident in my hometown. I'm terrified of being found or recognized, especially in the age of social media. I avoid having my picture taken, but it's impossible to stop it happening entirely. Loads of photos were taken at the Halloween party last year, but I wore a mask. The glitzy type people wear to balls. My first video covers the events of last Halloween. This is the third part of my story and can stand alone, but I'll leave a playlist link in the description so you can listen to the previous episodes if you want. Anyway, back to what I was saying about being anxious. It's sometimes tough to be optimistic because my roommate and best friend, Sutton, is prone to paranoia. She doesn't know the truth about me, she's just a natural catastrophist. We were walking to the library a few weeks ago and we passed a tour group of potential new students. One of them broke away from the herd and started power walking after us, at least according to Sutton in her immediate panic. I thought he just happened to be headed in the same direction, but there's always niggling doubt when you have my past. We were some distance from him when he left the tour group, so I don't think it had anything to do with me. But he did seem to be almost running towards us. Luckily, a professor intercepted him and pointed him back to his group. Even if he was following us, he was probably just some creep planning to hit on Sutton. 99% of the prospective students won't get in because our college favors the extremely rich and privileged. So I don't think we have to worry about seeing that guy again. That's why I came here. The chances of stumbling upon anyone from my old deadbeat town are minuscule. But the remote possibility of it happening still keeps me up at night. I meet Sutton and our friend Gordo in the cafeteria after class. He's from a poorer background like me, so we clicked instantly as humans amongst aliens. Not that I've got anything against our wealthier peers, for the most part. It's hard not to be jealous, but Sutton and her family are kind people that have been good to me, so I'm trying not to hold people's affluence against them. But it's difficult when surrounded by guys like Damon. They don't know what it's like in the real world. It's probably never occurred to them that crippling poverty even exists in our country, or that they've had so much handed to them through privilege. At least that's the vibe they give out. I have the worst luck with these people, Gordo sighs. What's this? I ask. My new roommate. I know what you're thinking. Why, Gordo, he can't possibly be worse than the last. But you'd be wrong, my friends, very wrong. Who is it this time? His name's Elliot. He told me that, very reluctantly, I might add, when I tried to make conversation. I asked where he's from and he snapped at me, saying he's here to work, not make friends. So we barely say 2 words to each other for weeks, and that's fine by me, but as soon as I mention that my friends are girls, he suddenly wants to be my homie. I'm not interested, of course. Does he take it like a normal person? Spoiler alert, no he doesn't. He starts following me. I had to hide on the way here to get away from him. You should report it, Sutton says. You go with him, I suggest. They'll take it more seriously if someone from a wealthy family supports the request for a swap. I hate to say it, but you're probably right, she replies. After lunch, my friends head to the student support office. We agree to meet by the water fountain after our final classes. Sutton is there first. I'm walking towards her when 2 jocks dash past me. Dude, let's chuck our shakes at Sutton, one says. They jog towards her, taking the plastic lids off their drinks. I can't help it. Before they can throw their cups at my friend, I explode the contents in their own dumb faces. One of them seems shocked but laughs it off. The other throws a hissy fit and repeatedly kicks a garbage can, much to the amusement of everyone around him. How did I know that would happen? Asks a familiar voice behind me. I turn to see Damon. Oh, what do you mean? I respond as my heart fills with dread. I told them to throw their shakes at Sutton, but not before announcing it to you en route. Why would you do that? He smirks at me. I think you know the answer to that one, don't you, Ella? It's almost surreal hearing my old name. I haven't been Ella Brown since last summer. What do you want from me? Relax, I just want to talk, and you need me. It's a miracle nobody's worked it out before now. I mean, Carrie White, seriously? Doesn't take a genius to connect the dots. It's apt, but also like you want people to find you. I chose it because of the novel when I got a fake ID to buy vodka. I was like 14. How was I supposed to know a few years later it would be the only ID I had to start a new life? Not everything is easy when you're not a Van Ark, you know? I didn't know where else to get a new identity. That ID was a good dupe. I couldn't not use it to get other identification. Please tell me your full name isn't down as Carrietta. I just said Carrie and the guy put Caroline. Also, my name is Carrie Black. You keep getting it wrong. I realize now he's probably been calling me by the incorrect name deliberately. How long has he known? And why didn't I see this as a red flag before? He smirks again. As if that changes anything. You really haven't thought this through. I mean, if I dyed my hair blonde, you'd still know it was me, right? Why do you think it's any different for you? What do you expect me to do? I snap. I'm tired of this conversation, but I can't walk away and risk him telling people about me. If those jocks weren't total idiots, he'd have pretty much told them already. My heart is sinking with the realization that my life here is over. I can't stay now that somebody knows who I am. At least I'll have some money on the run this time. I have a few ideas, Damon replies, but I need you to do something for me. You've probably heard how bad our football team sucks, but if we had somebody like you to move the ball here and there, it would be a different story. We might even make the finals. Why would I do that? I ask, but I'm not listening when he answers. I'm too busy thinking about whether to tell Sutton the truth. She knows telekinetic people exist. If I told her we could say goodbye properly, or even better, I could ask for her family's help starting over with a new identity. But would they want to help me if they knew who I am and what I've done? I can't bear the thought of my best friend hating me. I catch the end of what Damon is saying. I ask him to repeat it, and this time I listen. His plan takes 10 weeks to carry out and recover from. I miss a lot of classes, but between Sutton, Gordo, and Damon, I have my assignments and I'm kept in the loop. I still wonder if I'm making the right decision by not running, but Damon hasn't told anyone about me to my knowledge, and I'm not sure being alone in the world would be my best option. My mother might help me for no other reason than protecting herself, but what can she do? She's got little money and less sense. Gordo doesn't approve of my recent decisions. He keeps asking if Damon forced me into it. I can't tell him the truth, so I'm endlessly trying to convince him that me and Damon aren't a couple and he has no power over me. Gordo's in a sour mood when he drops off my latest study notes. I don't think he's adjusting well to someone new joining our friendship group. I'm fairly sure Satan has a child called Damon, he tells me. I think that's Damien. Look, you've got to drop this, I reply. Sorry, I'm just done with today. I saw Elliot, my psycho ex-roommate. I think I forgot to tell you what happened with everything going on with you. When student support pulled up my details, they said I was never assigned another roommate. They don't think Elliot even goes here, but they couldn't check without his last name. They confronted him months ago and he bolted. Student support changed the locks and he stopped going to classes and everything, so I thought he was gone, but I just saw him in the library. Did you talk to him? No, I booked it before he saw me. It's not that uncommon, Damon says as he walks in. Morons that don't get in sometimes just pretend to be students thinking they'll be allowed to stay if they prove themselves academically. They still get kicked out. Unless they have the right last name, I add. But then they wouldn't need to pretend to be a student in the first place, Gordo points out. Where did he get a key to your dorm? I ask. I don't know, but it's creepy, and why is he back now? He can't be trying to prove himself academically when he's already been found out. I suggest, maybe he was meeting a friend? Gordo replies, maybe. Who cares, I guess. It's not really a me problem unless he goes all stalkerish again. Gordo leaves after pizza, and I watch a film cuddled up with Damon. Why are you helping me? I ask. You should hate me for what I've done. I'm not a good person. Neither am I. Not many people are when pushed to the limit. Our conversation is cut short because Sutton runs in, soaked and hyperventilating. I was just being followed, she gasps. And you led them here? Damon snaps. Obviously not. I ran all over campus in the rain to lose him. She looks at me. Before you ask, yes, he was definitely following me. Next time call me, Damon tells her. You can lead him to the frat guys and he can see what happens. Next time, Sutton says, flopping down on her bed. I wonder if this has anything to do with Gordo's ex-roommate, but I don't mention it to avoid scaring Sutton. The next day is the first match of the football tournament. We're against another elite college. Damon hasn't really told me why he wants us to reach the final, but I gather it's got something to do with his father. I don't push him for his personal history, and he returns the favor. I play my part, moving the ball slightly in ways that nobody will think unnatural, but that ensures our win. Honestly, our team would be a lost cause without me. The celebrations move from the pitch to the Kappa Sig mansion. Most of the student population is here, even those that weren't at the game. I've not been out of my bandages very long. I'm worried about getting hurt if somebody bashes into me. It's important our team only scrapes every win until the final, Damon says. I'm about to ask why when Gordo appears and tries to crouch behind me. Creepy ex-roommate alert, he whisper yells. Ugh, he's seen me. There's a blonde guy approaching. I don't recognize him, but he looks kind of like that prospective student that left the tour group to pursue us. Sutton is across the room. I catch her eye and her face confirms my suspicion that this is the man that followed her. Damon whispers in my ear. That's Jason Wright. He was a guest on his brother's podcast about you. The name is familiar. I've never met Jason, but he was probably there the day of the massacre. His older brother Leo was in my grade at school. Leo self-published a book about me that mysteriously vanished from Amazon after a few weeks. The podcast lasted longer, but also disappeared overnight. I don't remember Jason being a guest. I can't have reached that episode before it was taken down. Jason holds out his hand for me to shake. He says, I don't believe we've met. I'm Elliot. Him being here doesn't fill me with the unbridled fear it would have only a few months ago. I turn to him, nervous but confident my new nose will do its job. If it doesn't, my name will. I'm Carrie. Carrie Van Ark. I see the confusion on his face. I don't look like Ella from his ill-fated hometown. As well as my nose, I've had my lips and breasts altered. These details add up to make me someone other than the girl he remembers, and the Van Arks are notoriously not to be messed with. I could have sworn you were somebody else, he mutters almost to himself before wandering off through the crowd. Bye then. I told you he was creepy, Gordo says. Wait, you two are related? We're married, I blurt at the same time Damon says. I'm his second cousin. He scowls at me. We agreed on the cousin story, but I can't bear to lose my connection with Gordo. Both of our families struggled with poverty, and there's a bond that comes with that. I don't want him to think I lied about my upbringing. It's one of the few things I haven't lied about. Only joking, I add hastily. Damon's father adopted me. Aren't you a bit old to be adopted? The Van Arks get what they want, I say truthfully. Gordo shrugs. I guess it's not the weirdest thing that's happened around here. 2 weeks later, I'm searching my hometown online. I like to check that nobody's talking about me and see what they're saying if they are. It's a habit I've tried and failed to kick. Anyway, here's the weird part. Leo and Jason Wright went missing last week. It feels like cogs are at work that I'm not aware of, and I've felt this way for a long time. You're probably wondering what happened in my hometown. I'll tell you in the next episode.
I don't share Adele's hometown glory. Kelsey Ballerini's Half of My Hometown made me laugh because half of my hometown is dead. The place I grew up was hell. They say if you're going through hell, keep going. But where can you go when you're a child, dependent on parents that shouldn't have brought you into this world in the first place? I knew I had telekinetic powers from a young age. My mother lashed me with her belt when she caught me using what she called my
tools from the devil,
despite my abilities as a child being little more than party tricks. If it came across like I idolized my father in previous episodes, it's because he showed me genuine love, and I can't say that about many people from my childhood. But he knew what my mother was up to, and he did nothing. I still have the scars. And I'm not just talking about those on my back. Damon thinks I was pushed to breaking point and snapped at my graduation ceremony. I want to tell him he's wrong, that I spent years planning and preparing for the massacre. But I'm scared he'll hate me. From the age of 14, I snuck into school at night to practice breaking the legs from the wooden chairs used at graduation. The staff kept ordering more seats because they were mysteriously disappearing. Sometimes the legs snapped too smoothly. They needed to be sharp to impale my dolls. With practice, I perfected breaking the chairs how I wanted, but after this, my plan failed. I had to be looking directly at an object to move it with my mind, so I could only raise a few chair legs at a time, and it was difficult to impale the dolls any other way than one by one. It was painfully slow, and the force required to drive the makeshift stakes through my toys made me faint after destroying just 2 or 3. My dream of punishing the town that demeaned me was just that, a pipe dream. I wasn't strong enough, no matter how much I practiced. But I've jumped ahead. Let's go back to the beginning. They called me Smelly Ella in primary school. I think Leo Wright started it. You've probably suffered similar teasing if your name is Ellie, Kelly, or Shelley. Except I really did stink because my mother sent me to school unwashed. My father was always busy with work, struggling to make ends meet. The taunts continued even when I started bathing myself. But the bullying wasn't too bad at that age. Nobody could think of anything better than Smelly Ella. And no one got physical. Until I encountered Calvin Maunders. He was 8 years older. He started following me home every day with his dumb mates. They would push me down, kick me, steal my belongings. My mother wasn't concerned when I came home bruised and bleeding. She said I deserved it. My father reported it to the head teacher of Calvin's school and mine, but Calvin and his friends had been expelled, so apparently nothing could be done. I was under no illusion that anyone at school cared. I didn't understand my powers at that age, so I couldn't attempt to use them against Calvin. It also took me years to overcome my mother's attempts to condition me against using telekinesis. At middle school, I was mocked for gaining weight. It makes me angry to think about. We all have different bodies and metabolisms. No one deserves to be made to feel like they're somehow lesser because of their size or shape. I had no friends. Except Sophie. She always seemed sad. I didn't understand because she was pretty and popular, and nobody made fun of her. It was strange that she wanted to spend time with me. I thought it was a joke at first, but she was kind, even when her friends were mean to her because of me. She probably felt sorry for me because she first approached me after my father died. He fell from scaffolding at work. My problems at school were nothing compared to those at home. My mother got infinitely worse without my father around. I don't know what I would have done without Sophie's support. Her father, Brutus, was the mayor, and they lived in a mansion. It seemed like a fairy tale castle to me, at least at first. Sophie showed me the tunnel in the basement that led out to the hills. We used to sit up there, looking down on our awful town. It was here she confided that her dad and stepmom were abusive. She also told me she saw her father push mine from the scaffolding. Brutus had been my father's boss. I knew there were problems at work from snippets of overheard conversations at home, but I never imagined my dad would be murdered. Sophie went missing a week later. I hoped she had run away, but her body was found after 2 months. I knew Brutus or his wife Artemis were responsible. They became numbers 2 and 3 on my hit list. Calvin was number 1, and the seed of the graduation massacre was planted in my mind. Although I hadn't planned any details yet, not even that graduation would be the venue. This idea came to me in high school. My parents never went to graduation, so it was only when I had to go as part of the choir that I learned how big a deal it was for the town. Brutus and Artemis never missed it. on account of him being mayor. Calvin's younger and smarter sister was in my grade, so I knew there was a decent chance he'd also be in attendance when it came my turn to graduate. But, as I said, I soon realized I wouldn't be able to carry out my plans and rejected the idea. I wouldn't wish my high school experience on anyone. The bullying went up 100 levels. I was teased, beaten, or spat at every single day. The teachers let it happen. I don't know if they feared the nastier students or if they just didn't care about helping weird fat Ella. I knuckled down and focused on my studies. I knew getting good grades and into college was my only way out of town and away from my mother. One teacher was supportive, Mr. Willis. He gave me extra tutoring after school on Tuesdays and Fridays for most of my high school career. He said I could call him Nick, and he became my only friend. I told him about the bullying and my mother, and he was sympathetic. Although in hindsight, I see the glaring red flag that he did nothing to actively resolve my situation at home or school. But he was a kind ear, and as I got older, I noticed his looks. I developed a crush on him, but I never acted on this or deliberately showed my feelings. I needed him as a tutor and friend more than anything else, and I knew he'd never be interested in me anyway. Graduation was soon upon us. I told Nick I wasn't planning to attend the ceremony. I didn't want to be around the other students now that my exams were over and school was out. Choir duties weren't required of graduating seniors, so I was free. He said he understood, but it would be a shame not to celebrate my hard work. He invited me to his classroom an hour before the ceremony. He said we'd have a drink together. This is where I lost my virginity to him, against my will. Afterwards, he strung me up with a noose he'd made from rope. As my life bled out, I went from being terrified to feeling relieved. I started to dream as I drifted unconscious. In the dream, I used my powers to drag a table beneath my feet. I managed to escape the noose. My legs were unsteady, causing me to fall onto the tabletop and hurt my arm, but I wasn't seriously injured. The sound of the ceremony outside traveled to my ears. Excited students, proud teachers, cliques I had never been allowed to join. My powers were thrumming in a way I'd never felt before, bursting to get out. I let them lead me to where the ceremony was taking place. I looked down at myself to see I was thinner and wearing the deep purple dress I admired in the shop window but couldn't afford. Rows of students in black cloaks and mortarboards sat on one side of the stage, their families on the other.
"Is that Ella? How did she lose weight so fast?"
Tate Robertson asked.
Shame she's still pig ugly,
Tilly Griffin retorted.
"And still got no sense of style."
Tate laughed. Telekinesis often feels like having invisible hands independent of my body that can reach much further than my physical arms. They also possess greater force. Force I used to snap Tilly's neck, followed by Tate's. Students nearby screamed as they slumped forward. I liked the idea of people having a moment to realize something was wrong before it really hit the fan. Then, just as I planned, I collapsed the chairs. It happened so quickly, only 4 or 5 people managed to stand up in time. Nobody was badly hurt at this point, except Tilly and Tate, of course, and only those closest to them realized something was horrifically wrong. So some people laughed as they climbed to their feet. But the general hubbub was one of confusion. What caused the chairs to collapse like that? Was it an earthquake? I raised my arms and hundreds of chair legs rose with them. It no longer mattered that I couldn't see all the legs. My power was stronger now. People shrieked or muttered in amazement at the sight of the legs floating.
"It's Ella!"
Someone screeched. I don't know if it was how I was standing with my arms outstretched or the look on my face that caused them to work it out. I didn't care. That's when Nick saw me. He caught my eye and turned gaunt in an instant. I smiled at him and then released the chair legs. It was satisfying seeing my tormentors and the parents that raised them, and the teachers that did nothing to help me, staked like vampires within seconds of each other. Nobody was laughing now. The survivors went into full panic mode.
"Get to the sports hall. Follow emergency procedure,"
Nick shouted into the microphone before rushing to leave the stage. I used the microphone wire to drag him back and string him up from the stage's metal structure. He pulled desperately at the wire noose around his neck, but failed to loosen its grip. Then he started beckoning people towards him, but nobody tried to help in the chaos. Not one person. Target number 4, dead. As I was thinking this, I realized targets 1, 2, and 3 were still on the loose. I couldn't see them anywhere. I hadn't been able to locate them when I did the staking. The chair legs outnumbered attendees, but lots of people survived because they were shielded by the crowd around them. This didn't bother me. I didn't want it to be over too quickly. It was cat and mouse, and I was the cat for the first time in my life. I started running to the parking lot. This is where the majority seemed to be fleeing. Some were headed for the sports hall, but most had the sense to realize they would be sitting ducks indoors. On the off chance Brutus, Artemis, or Calvin had decided to follow the emergency procedure, I knew they'd probably still be in the hall when I got back, so the parking lot had to be my priority. As it turned out, I later forgot about returning, so the ones that followed Nick's instructions and went to the sports hall were the ones that lived. The sound of sirens didn't deter me. I snapped necks at random with my invisible hands as people fled. Well, almost at random. If I saw somebody that had been especially nasty to me, they died. If they'd ever been kind to me, or at the very least left me alone, I let them live. Maybe. People ran harder when they saw those around dropping. Not that it did them any good.
"That's her!"
Leo Wright yelled, pointing at me when I reached the parking lot. The stench of burnt rubber was heavy in the air as cars sped away.
"Lie down on your front. Hands where we can see them,"
an armed officer called. I tore the gun from his hands and snapped his neck. An armed response unit raced into the parking lot, followed by several ambulances. I threw the armed response vehicle 10 feet into the air. Several graduates were squashed like flies when it crashed back to Earth. I realized I was going to die. The chances of taking out every armed officer were slim, but I found I didn't care, providing it was after my main targets were dead. Leo's car fled out of sight. I suspected I could still toss it without having eyes on it now, as my powers had advanced. Imagining probably would have sufficed, like with the chair legs, but I got distracted by Calvin starting his car. The jerk wasn't even waiting for his family. Brutus and Artemis were getting into their Jag. I focused all my power on crushing Calvin's car into a small cube. Tears of almost euphoric relief rolled down my face as blood leaked out from the crevices of flattened metal. Brutus and Artemis must have feared they were next because they started climbing out of their vehicle in a hurry. But it was too late. It just meant Brutus's head and some of their limbs were severed when I crunched the Jag. A series of bullets were fired from somewhere, but they went straight through me, as if I were a ghost. I fell to my knees, but not because of the bullets. Squashing the cars had been too much for me on top of everything else. Blood poured from my nose. I was sure I was going to faint. This sensation passed after a few minutes, but the remaining survivors were gone. What I can only describe as fighter jets landed in the parking lot. Men in army uniforms scrambled out, followed by others in suits. To my surprise, none of them had guns. I was about to snap their necks or push them away from me when one of the suited men outstretched his arm and turned his wrist. My head filled with unbearable pain. The agony is indescribable. It was far worse than my suffering at Calvin's hands or my mother's or even Nick's. I tried to use my powers, but they wouldn't work. Did this man have powers too? I managed to look up at him as the men advanced towards me. His eyes were a sharp blue. This reminds me of Damon now, but obviously not at the time. 2 army men tried to lift me, but their hands went through me like the bullets before. The pain faded, and I felt my power rapidly returning. "What the fuck?" one of them said, turning to Blue Eyes, but he looked as shocked as the rest. Then, my power exploded. The men were thrown 30 feet towards the sky before they descended. Limbs snapped as they collided with concrete. Blue Eyes landed awkwardly. His neck lay at a right angle, bone punching through skin. Then I woke up. I was lying on the table in Nick's classroom. I was overweight again and wearing my old tatty clothes, bloodied from Nick's assault. There was fresh blood too, warm blood streaming from my nose. I got down from the table on shaky legs and staggered out of the building. The broken remains of the graduation chairs littered the grass, as did impaled bodies. Nick was still above the stage. The wire holding him creaked as he swayed in the wind. I did that. My powers must have worked in a new and different way while I was unconscious. I haven't been able to replicate it since or work out how it happened. My best guess is it had to do with experiencing trauma beforehand. My mother came striding towards me.
"You stupid, stupid girl! Spawn of the devil! You've ruined my life! Cops are everywhere in town! They'll blame me!"
I knew where to go. My mother followed me to Sophie's house, which fortunately was near the high school. We broke in and went through the tunnel to the hills. Then we ran. Ella Brown became Carrie Black, and later, Carrie Van Ark. In the immediate aftermath of the massacre, social media and online news outlets went crazy. But then, all reports of the incident disappeared overnight. Someone is hushing it up even now. And I'm not naive enough to believe they're out to help me. It frightens me, but it'll be okay if nobody else finds out who I am. It's Ella's problem, not Carrie's. The stress of life as a fugitive caused me to lose weight. Exercise helped me cope mentally, and I discovered a natural talent for long-distance running. This helped me gain my place at college. The scout that enrolled me looked past my incomplete paperwork because he thought I was destined for greatness. I wake up beside Damon. We slept together for the 4th time last night. It was the first time the memory of Nick didn't completely overwhelm me. "You okay?" he asks, pulling me into his arms. I kiss him in reply, trying to push Nick's face from my mind. It's a big day today. Damon is playing in the final of the football tournament, although this feels insignificant after thinking about my past. There's a knock at the door.
"Your dad's here,"
Tom calls from outside. Damon sighs.
Ugh, he wasn't meant to get here till later.
It's probably because of me, I point out. I told Gordo my name change was Damon's father's idea, but I've never met the man. We thought he wouldn't find out about me switching my last name to match his, but he phoned last week in anger over it. Damon lied and said we're planning to get married soon, so I changed my name in advance. Giving his father a plausible explanation for me joining the family, So I imagine he's now keen to meet me. We quickly get dressed and go downstairs. The man in the hallway reminds me of Brutus. They don't look alike, but it's the way he holds himself. He's the type that could talk quietly and have people lean in to listen.
You must be Carrie. I'm Demetrius,
he says smoothly. We shake hands. He seems vaguely familiar. It's more than the Brutus connection.
Have we met before?
He asks. No, I'd remember, I reply, attempting to get on his good side with flattery.
I think you do.
I realize who he is when he removes his sunglasses. I battle to keep my face straight. He can't be allowed to see recognition in my eyes or body language. The last time I saw Demetrius, he was lying in the parking lot of my high school. His neck snapped at a right angle. His hair is grayer and his face has more lines, but the blue eyes are the same. I run out of the house, wiping tears from my cheeks, furious at myself for being so stupid. Damon catches me and grabs my arm.
Where are you going? What's going on?
How did you know about me? I yell. How did you know who I am?
I told you. I recognized you from the news.
So it's just a coincidence that your dad was there that day trying to kill me?
My dad was what?
I'll spell it out for you. Your dad tried to kill me. I killed him. He survives a broken neck because who doesn't? Then you tricked me into trusting you. What do you want from me?
My dad works with the government. It's possible he would have been called that day, but...
It's not only possible, it happened! I hate how hysterical my voice sounds, but I'm devastated.
But you said he died. How is that possible? Are you hearing what you're saying right now?
You're wasted studying business, I tell him. You should go into acting.
Carrie, listen to me. I didn't know my dad was involved. I knew he heard about what happened because we talked about it at the time, but...
Shit. What?
I asked him recently who covered it up and why. Maybe he thought it was weird I wanted to know after all this time, but you look different. He knows about your name change, but not your surgery. I'll say I was asking for an assignment or something.
He remembers me, Damon. He made a comment about how he knows I recognize him. I can't stop the tears streaming down my face. I let him hold me. I'm not convinced I can trust him, but it's too inviting to believe someone could know about my past and still want me without an ulterior motive. He takes my face in his hands.
I'm on your side, okay? I swear I didn't know.
What do we do then? What does he want with me?
Maybe we should leave,
he suggests. Then we need to go now. He seems hesitant. What is it? I snap. He sighs.
He has a lot of people at his disposal. He'll probably find us. I don't think we should run unless there's no other choice. Let's go to the game and try to suss out what he knows. There'll be hundreds of people at the pre-game party and even more at the match and after party. He won't be able to do anything. I won't let him hurt you.
We walk hand in hand back to the house.
Let's take a bag just in case,
he says when we're in his room and out of earshot.
We'll only be able to pack the essentials because he'll be suspicious if my pack looks bulky. You just take a small purse. He won't be able to suspect anything and he'll waste time coming back here or to your dorm thinking we've gone to collect suitcases.
He looks at me like he expects a protest. Hey, it's fine with me. Last time I ran with nothing but the bloody clothes on my back. What do you do without your hair products? It feels good to laugh and joke. I hate to admit it, but I'm scared. Really scared. We fill Damon's bag with our toothbrushes and paste, a change of underwear and a sweater each, and as much cash as we can fit without the bag looking stuffed to the brim. I put another wad of cash in my purse. While Damon's changing into his football uniform, I email Timothy, Sutton's grandfather. He knows people like me exist, so I figure he might know how Demetrius survived a snapped neck. It's a huge risk telling him who I am, but I believe him to be a kind person, and I might need reinforcements. I find his email address online. It's a shame I don't have his phone number. I can't ask Sutton because she went home for a wedding. I've tried calling, but she's not picking up.
Hey, Tom, do you reckon you could get rid of my father's men?
Damon asks his friend.
Cause a distraction and lock them in the basement?
Sure. Consider it done.
Tom replies. Won't he notice they're gone and get suspicious? I ask.
We need them out the way so they can't follow us. He probably won't notice straight away. They stay on the sidelines while he schmoozes at these events. I could get someone to wear my uniform during the game if we need to leave. He won't know it's not me under the helmet, but not if they're watching my every move.
The pre-game party is where the top cats place bets on the outcome of the match. I've been using my telekinesis to rig the games. That's how our talentless team made the final. Damon told me his father will bet against us because we barely scraped through most of the games up to this point, whereas the rival team have several players destined to go pro after college. He planned this all along. He's going to bet against his father, so when I rig the match, he gains some financial freedom from Daddy Dearest. Damon doesn't like talking about his childhood, but I gather all was not well. He wants to walk away from the allowance and trust funds he gets from his father, but he loves money too much to do it without a nest egg. He shouldn't have spent so much on frat parties in our first semester, but I don't mention this after how angry he got last time. The truth of my statement must have hit a nerve. At least I have most of the money he blew on the Halloween party last year, but I've only got a portion of it in my purse. I can't help but wonder how he'll cope on the run with only the cash we can carry. Although, granted, it's more money than my parents ever made in 5 years. Maybe we should let the other team win, so your father thinks he's on top of everything, I suggest.
No, we need the money.
We can't carry it.
Not if we have to leave today, but we could if we go in a few days with more bags and time to sort out the transactions.
Does the bank let people take out that much in cash?
If you're in my family.
Why doesn't that surprise me?
My friend Gordo quips as he joins us. He hands me a paper cup of lemonade.
I forgot to get you one. Saz,
he says to Damon. It's no secret Gordo doesn't like my boyfriend, and I haven't even told him we're together yet.
What do you need cash for?
I was just wondering about banking. I lie, not very convincingly. I down my lemonade quicker than I'd like so I can ask Gordo to get me another.
Get one for me this time,
Damon says. Should I ask your father outright what he's planning? I ask when Gordo's out of earshot.
How sure are you that he remembers you? We don't want to tell him who you are if he doesn't know.
Our conversation is interrupted by a member of the football team.
Sorry, Coach wants to see us in the VIP box,
he says.
Now? Yeah, guess it's a pre-game pep talk or something.
Damon takes my hand.
You're coming too. I'm not letting you out of my sight.
The VIP box is the highest seating area overlooking the pitch. It doesn't get as crowded as the stands below. Waiters serve canapes and champagne after kickoff. No doubt this is where Demetrius will watch the game. I take comfort knowing he'll be far away from us peasants. The coach and the rest of the team are already here. I sense Damon relax. Tom asks,
Does anyone else have no signal? I usually get data here at least.
I'm sure you can manage without Instagram for 5 minutes,
Coach replies.
Why are we here anyway?
Someone asks.
Mr. Van Ark wants to have a word with you ahead of the game.
My heart rises to my mouth. Damon grabs my hand and we turn to leave, but Demetrius is already in the room, pushing Gordo ahead of him. He outstretches his arm and turns his wrist, coach and the entire football team except Damon rise from the ground, as if pulled by invisible ropes. I try to throw Demetrius against the wall with my mind, but he twists his other wrist. An unbearable pain erupts inside my head. I scream in agony and my powers don't work.
"Leave her alone!"
Damon yells. He takes a few steps towards his father before he too crumples in pain. The torture ends abruptly when the last football player stops moving. Demetrius lets their corpses drop to the floor.
That did not just happen.
Gordo mutters. Demetrius ignores him.
I'll put the pain back if you disobey me,
He tells me and Damon. What do you want from me?
Your babies,
He replies. I hear myself laugh. I wasn't expecting a straight answer, especially such a bizarre one.
My family has been looking for someone like you for generations.
He explains.
We're special, you and I. Less than 1 in 100,000 of the population are capable of practicing magic. It's genetic. But even so, only around 5% of children in our respective families are born with power. My bloodline possesses the ability to cast spells, and yours the skill to reverse them. Uncontrolled telekinesis is the main symptom presented by untrained reversers. Fortunately, I was nearby on business when news of your little rampage hit. What happened next was less fortunate, but it couldn't be helped. I didn't know then what I know now about your kind.
Gordo speaks up.
Let me check I'm getting this right. You think if you and Carrie have a baby, the child will be able to cast spells and reverse them? We need the white coats up in here.
Yes, we'll make history.
Demetrius answers, ignoring Gordo's jibe. It's never been done? I ask.
No records exist of it having been attempted. It was too difficult for warlocks to find reversers and vice versa. My ancestors tried to increase our spell-casting power through incest. But the babies were always born human.
So how do you know my baby won't be human?
I don't. Some think it's naive to believe our child will possess both abilities. They think we're playing with fire. That's why I'll keep you in a secure and controlled environment where yours and the baby's health can be monitored daily.
And what happens after I've given birth?
You'll have more children, and when you're of no more use to me, I'll dispose of you.
You're crazy. Completely loop-the-loop.
Gordo laughs.
Especially if you think she's going anywhere near you.
Damon adds. Demetrius places 2 syringes on a nearby bench.
These contain a sedative that will immediately prevent you from using your powers. You'll lose consciousness soon after that. I'd like you to inject yourselves. It's completely safe. I want you alive.
It's not happening, I insist. He raises Gordo like he did the football team.
Put him down!
I scream.
Not until you inject yourself.
Gordo's face turns red as he struggles with the invisible noose. I reach for one of the syringes.
No!
Damon shouts, pulling me back.
He's dead anyway. He's seen too much.
I beat you last time and I can do it again. Put him down and don't test me, I yell at Demetrius. sounding surer than I feel.
You got lucky last time, you pathetic little girl. How can you hurt me?
I'm flummoxed for a second, but then I see a way out. I didn't say I could hurt him. I said I could beat him. And I can, even if Gordo's beyond saving. I seek my reflection in the glass and wrap my invisible hands around my neck. The poetic justice isn't lost on me. This is how I deserve to die after all the people I've killed this way. I remember crying uncontrollably in the night when I was a child. My father came to my room and asked what was wrong. I told him I was afraid to die. He said, "There's nothing to fear from death because it's a form of freedom. Death gives us a choice when life doesn't. Demetrius won't be taking me anywhere. Not alive, anyway." I reach for Damon's hand. "Hey, I love you," I whisper, and then tighten my grip on my own neck.
What are you doing?"
he says urgently. Demetrius doesn't realize anything is wrong and continues his mad raving.
I'm the most powerful warlock in the world, and you don't know how to do half of what you're capable of.
But I do,
says a voice behind him. It's Sawyer, Sutton's cousin. She murmurs something and Gordo is released. He falls to the floor, gasping for breath. To say I'm surprised to see Sawyer is an understatement. I didn't see her come in, and Demetrius locked the door. There's also no reason for her to be here. She's supposed to be at a wedding hundreds of miles away. Demetrius outstretches his arm towards her, but she vanishes and reappears on the other side of the room. I realize she's not here. Not entirely. It's like at my graduation, bullets sailed straight through me because my physical body was elsewhere. I've never been able to detach again since. I don't know how I did it. I shouldn't have emailed Timothy. I've put them at risk. He's immortal. There's nothing we can do. You need to go back and run before he finds out who you are, I warn Sawyer.
He's not,
she replies.
Warlocks can't be killed by the supernatural, but they can be killed by humans.
Damon and Gordo look at each other.
I don't know if I'm human,
Damon says. Gordo grabs the syringes. He throws one like a dart, and I zoom it towards Demetrius with my mind. He destroys it with a burst of magical lightning.
Couldn't you stop that?
Damon snaps at Sawyer.
It was an insta-spell. They're too fast. I'm also kinda busy stopping him doing that headache thing. You're welcome.
I'll just have to get him the old-fashioned way,
Gordo says. He crouches behind the benches and rolls beneath them to move towards Demetrius. It doesn't entirely block him from view, but it makes him less vulnerable. Demetrius fires lightning at the benches. Wood chippings explode around Gordo until he's in plain sight. A thunderbolt is thrown at him, but I shove him out of its path with my powers. At the same time, I see Damon in the corner of my eye taking a dagger from the back of his jeans. I move him across the room at an inhuman speed, placing him right in front of Demetrius. He stabs at his father's heart, but it's a moment too late. Demetrius blocks it. Not even with magic, just with his arm. Then he lifts Damon like he did Gordo and the football team. "No!" I cry, looking around for Sawyer, but she's not here. I try to attack Demetrius, but he maims me with a headache spell. I'm about to close my eyes because I can't bear to watch him casually murder his own son, but movement behind him catches my attention. One of the footballers is sitting up. It's Tom. Gordo throws him the remaining syringe. Demetrius spins around, but this time he's the one a moment too late. The needle is already in his leg. He collapses to his knees. Tom and Gordo are both looking at each other dubiously. I'm not sure either of them has what it takes to kill Demetrius, and if they don't, we'll be in trouble when he wakes up. At least it buys us time to get on the road. Damon grabs his father roughly by the hair. the dagger in his other hand, his eyes full of hatred. Demetrius speaks in a breathy voice.
You're not
Not what? Not human? Damon spits. Demetrius nods. Shame I haven't believed a word you've said since you told me Mom left us. And Uncle Rupert. He left right after you made us all put missing assumed dead clauses in our wills. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Did you? Demetrius is beyond answering, so Damon slits his throat. Sawyer makes it back as Demetrius bleeds out.
Sorry, I'm not very good at this yet.
How soon before he wakes up?
Gordo asks. I am human, Damon assures us. I said that so he'd be distracted with you, thinking I wasn't gonna try anything.
But he said...
Gordo starts. He's a liar. My cousins used to do some weird stuff growing up. I never did. I'm human. How did you find me?
Granddad got your email. We were worried when you weren't answering your phone. There was a spell blocking the signal, but obviously we didn't know that till I got here. You left your hairbrush behind at Christmas, so he did a locator spell.
Your granddad?
Yeah.
But if he's a warlock and you're a reverser...
We have both genes in our family.
So babies can be both?
No, they can't. Not even if the parents are one of each. Granddad says babies probably won't get powers at all. It's just me and him and 5 generations of our family.
So, all this was for nothing. If my dad had known, Damon says. I pull him close to me. It must be devastating, taking the life of his own flesh and blood despite their differences, and Demetrius giving him no alternative. Even if we'd left him sedated, I don't think he would have believed us about the babies without trying it for himself. I wouldn't have been safe. He was just another Brutus or Nick Willis, someone the world is better off without. Damon knows this, and I hope it brings him peace. Sawyer turns to Tom.
Did you play dead?
Yeah, I went limp when I was hanging. I was going to wait till he left, but I saw an opportunity to help. He was standing right in front of me.
Gordo and Tom seem unsettled by all they've seen today. Gordo is a close friend of mine and Tom of Damon. They'll keep our secrets. I hope. I'm more confident in Gordo than Tom. I hate to admit it, but I'm tempted to snap Tom's neck to be safe. But that's the type of thing Demetrius would have done. I don't want to be like him. His cruelty didn't serve him in the end. You better let my father's men out and send them up here, Damon says to Tom. Demetrius's ego was his ultimate downfall. If he wasn't so sure he was invincible, he wouldn't have gone against us without locating his men first. Tom returns with them in tow 10 minutes later. I'm in charge now. Get rid of him, Damon instructs them, pointing at his father's body. After a moment's hesitation, they do as they're told. And them too. I guess. Damon adds, looking at the football team. We need to hurry. People will be arriving for the game soon. I add. We return to the pregame party. The match will be canceled when only Tom and Damon show up on the field, but I leave before that. The thing about liars is nobody believes them, even when they're telling the truth. That's why I follow Demetrius's men, Damon's men now, to see where they bury their former boss, and why I contact my least favorite human, my mother. We dig up his remains and wait. It's a long wait, but we're patient. The wound starts to heal after 12 hours. Mother holds the dagger against his heart and pushes it down the moment he opens his eyes. You're certain you're human? Timothy asks.
Don't accuse me of being one of those.
Mother gestures between me and Demetrius.
One of those things.
You never experienced any unexplained phenomena in childhood?
Timothy presses.
Only in hers.
Mother retorts, glaring at me like I'm dog excrement. Do all supernaturals experience unexplained phenomena in childhood? I ask Timothy after we've reburied the body. Mother didn't stick around to help, no surprises there.
Yes, especially if untrained,
Timothy replies. So, you wouldn't not know?
I'm positive your mother is human.
I'm talking about Damon. Demetrius woke up, so that means... But he never experienced anything as a child.
I'll see what I can find out. I don't mean to alarm you, but it's somewhat concerning. Warlocks and reversers always present in childhood.
So, he's something else?
That would be my guess. Don't say anything to him until I've done some research. His father was highly corrupt in business and politics. He needs to prove he's not cut from the same cloth before I'm prepared to complicate matters.
Is that why you won't train me? Like you're training Sawyer?
Partly. I know you killed Trent, not to mention what happened at your graduation. You need to prove to me you can use your powers responsibly.
I nod. This is fine by me for now. Sawyer calls leaving our physical bodies spiriting. She says we can only reverse spells in our spirit form. I wouldn't want to attempt it in case it harms the baby. One more thing, I call after Timothy. Are you certain a child can't get separate powers from both parents? Say if one parent was a reverser and the other something else?
A child can't be both warlock and reverser. I say that with confidence. But the scenario you present? No, I'm not certain.